Y'all been writing me. We having some problems with in-laws. Hey, babies. Come sit on this porch with me. Outside of just the dynamics of the relationship that you have with that person and just looking for green, red, or yellow flags, and that person is also assessing and seeing the type of relationship they have with their parents. What does that relational dynamic look like? If they have a codependent relationship with their parents, guess what? In your relationship or your marital home, unless boundaries are placed, there's going to be a codependent relationship with your in-laws as well. When I say codependent relationship with your in-laws, I mean the in-laws who are overly involved in what happens in your relationship, decision-making processes and things like that. This is why boundaries are so crucial. The problem is that people talk about boundaries when it comes to themselves. When you're in a relationship or you are married, the boundaries that you need to talk about also need to include boundaries in regards to your friends and your family as well. Relationship.
Now look, she is doing a thorough deep dive into this, and we're gonna talk about this in this video. I think she does a great job explaining the overall dynamic and this, that, and the other. But boundaries are important. They need to be set. That's a key aspect to addressing this issue. But at the same time, these are deep rooted emotional dependent issues and a lot of other things. It could be trauma based. It's very deep. It's not as shallow as she may come off trying to explain into this video. It's very hard for someone to just say, okay, mom, I'm married, this is how this is going to be. These are going to be the rules with my wife and this, that, and the other. A lot of times it's just not that simple, depending on the dynamic the man has with his mom, or even the dynamic that the woman has with her mother. Because a lot of men have problems with mother-in-laws as well. But let's dive into what she got to say, because I think she makes some great points.
And marital expectations are expectations that needed to be discussed before you two committed, before you said I do. And I'm referencing in-laws in regards to a relationship as well, because if you are planning on marrying that person or being with that person for a long time, even if you just want to keep it at a long-term domestic partnership, guess what? These people still going to have a factor and still going to have a say if you don't put your foot down and if you two don't set boundaries early on. No boundaries means there's a high risk for your in-laws to end up overstepping your privacy and your personal space. Well, Kitty, what does that look like? That looks like your in-laws interfering with your decision making, causing arguments, causing resentments, projecting their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors.
Okay, and then another key aspect I want to bring up, why it's not that simple. When you are introducing or you bringing someone into your life, if you the guy bringing a girlfriend, wife, or whatever, if you the woman bringing in a husband, and we got in-laws on both sides, you are oftentimes just getting to know this person. You may have been dating for a year or so, and you getting married. So the problem is that these people feel that, okay, I can't turn my back on my mom or my dad or vice versa, because that's my mom and dad. They have my back. What if our relationship goes south? Or what if I can't depend on you? Or what if, you leave me? I got this over here. They may be overbearing. They may stay in our business. They may do this, that, and the other. But push come to shove, if your ass leave me tomorrow, I got my mama. If you leave me tomorrow, I got my daddy. And so I think that's the power dynamic in the hard mental block or the mental stress that these people have. Like, okay, I know I need to set boundaries, but I don't want to alienate myself away from my backbone, because my backbone is what's been there for me my whole life. You just coming into the picture. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with when it comes to creating boundaries for, the in-laws.
Onto you and your partner, interfering with big things like finances, parenting, travel. And this right here creates a lot of conflict in relationships and marriages. So, what happens is one partner or one spouse ends up feeling neglected, unprotected, dismissed, disrespected. And the other partner ends up feeling confused, cornered, ashamed, guilty. But both of those partners end up having anger and resentment towards each other and misplaced frustrations and stresses because of those in laws and their interference. And once again, this threatens the emotional security within that relationship, and the ability to trust starts to go out the window.
But also, I think we need to raise the point that a lot of people get sidetracked and don't pay attention to what they are living and see right before their own eyes. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people get focused on the in-laws kind of being around or kind of intruding to a certain extent, and they just focus on all that negativity and they ignore all the good that's actually going on in their home. And I think that's where it boils down to. You need to pick and choose how you distribute your energy and how you distribute letting things bother you or upset you that ultimately will create division in your home. Okay, if you're dealing with a mother-in-law that's kind of overbearing, or or this, that, and the other, ultimately, if it's not driving a wedge in between you and your spouse, then that's a lot of energy you really don't need to give that situation. Now, if you have one of those mother-in-laws that are actively talking her child or son or daughter against you, now that's a different thing. But most of the time, it's not really not that. Most mother-in-laws are just overbearing. Like, they always around, they always got their input, they always giving their opinion. But if you paying attention to your husband or your wife and they are still moving independently, although the in-law or whatever is still overbearing, you need to focus on that and be like, okay, he or she is they all in our business, but my man is holding his ground. My man is this, that, and the other. And then another thing I think where people make big mistakes is that they try to give the spouse or husband or wife a freaking ultimatum. You don't never need to give your husband or your wife an ultimatum to choose in between you and his mom or his dad. For one, that's not real true love. You shouldn't be putting that person in a position to choose their original family or the person that birthed them in this world between you and them. Love, care, and compassion is trying to figure out a way to, okay, what can we do to commingle and coexist in this relationship so I can keep you in my life and you can keep them in your life as well, and we can get it all figured out.
Dissipates. And then as a result of this, we end up in this withdrawal dynamic that creates distance that becomes a lot harder to resolve. Another factor is in laws can definitely get in the way of you two forming your own traditions and you two's routines. And let me tell you, a lot of codependent in laws don't like boundaries. They will try to guilt trip you out of them because the boundaries won't work for them. Just like you setting boundaries for yourself reflects how you love yourself and how you respect yourself and how you want to protect yourself, it is that exact thing for your relationship or your marriage. You want to preserve that marriage. You want that marriage or that relationship to be happy, thriving, able to grow, and healthy. And in order for you to do so, you have to put your foot down and look at the things that go against what you want for that relationship or that marriage, and look at the things that goes against the values of that relationship and that marriage. Let them.
Bottom line, overall, what she's saying is important and it's true. Boundaries are very, very, very important. But I don't care who you are. When you get married or engaged or whatever to a person, you need to understand that you are getting married and engaged to their whole entire family. And these people are not going to just throw their family away because you can't get along with them. But nonetheless, like, subscribe. We're running towards 100K subs like it ain't nothing. I appreciate all the support. Comment down below and let me know what you all think about this situation.